Okay, I did a video last year where I talked about Paul's descent into being a joke character in Tekken, but Paul has absolutely nothing on the man who is destined to die broke. Wait, he actually did that, didn't he? Alright, it is an absolute must that every fighting game has to have a Bruce Lee clone in it somehow. As a fan of Bruce Lee's movies, I approve of this. Fei Long, Liu Kang, Jan Li, Maxi, hell, even anime fighting games have you covered because Rock Lee exists in Naruto. There are countless others. But my personal favorite is Law in Tekken, and I'm specifically just saying Law for now because if you didn't know, that applies to 2 characters. We'll get to that. The reason why Law appeals to me is because of 2 very simple reasons. Number 1, obviously, his resemblance to Bruce Lee, but the second being that he's his own person. As much as he looks like him, he's not just a complete Bruce Lee ripoff. I think that's the main difference between him and Fei Long, who is almost entirely just Bruce Lee. Law's had a jokey quality to him that's always been attached to his character, and it makes him a lot less serious. But boy did that joke get blown way out of proportion over time with each passing Tekken game. Starting at Tekken 1, Martial Law, great name by the way, Martial Law's character was pretty chill at first. He wanted to win the Tekken tournament to have enough money to open a dojo. So far so good, though it is faintly implied that he may have received the money due to Yoshimitsu's Robin Hood escapades. This is just a theory on my part and it's never really been confirmed, but somehow Law did get his money without actually winning the tournament. And this is the closest thing to Law appearing goofy in this game, by the way. Also going forward, I need to point this out. I understand that not all of these endings are canon. I'm not really talking about Law's actual full Tekken story, as that's all over the place to be quite honest. I'm more focusing on how he's actually being portrayed in each game, which is ultimately where the problem lies in the first place. In Tekken 2, Baek destroys Law's dojo and Law wants revenge, which he gets. However, in his ending, Law and Paul are both training together and the training doesn't necessarily go well for Paul. Law's successful in doing his backflips, but Paul has an issue. But again, Paul is the one that's embarrassed here, not Law. His character still isn't really that goofy, just a pretty comedic ending, no problems here. By Tekken 3, we get a brief absence from Marshall as his son Forrest is present. He enters the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3 with Paul, against Marshall's wishes by the way, and he enters the tournament when Paul gets robbed. For more on that, watch this video here after finishing the current one. However, in this game, both Marshall and Paul are training with Forrest, and they both end up falling on their faces in the process. A little bit more comedic for Marshall, but it's still not too bad. And essentially, they just ripped off the Tekken 2 ending, but we move on to Tekken 4 where we get peak Martial Law. Marshall's back and he enters the 4th tournament in hopes of opening up a chain of Chinese food restaurants. And he does open the restaurants. He's never winning a tournament. However, after a brawl of one of his Martial China chains, he is forced to shut them all down and he ends up opening his dojo back for income. The dojo also goes by the wayside eventually just from paying to keep the lights on and a lack of people coming in to train.
What did you just say?
You heard me. I said this food sucks. You expect us to eat this stuff?
What do you mean it sucks?
This pepper beef is too damn spicy.
What are you talking about? This is good. You.
This ending is hilarious, by the way. It's probably one of my top 3 favorite Law endings. But from here on out, Law's downward spiral in life gets out of control. By Tekken 5, Marshall's dumbass son had got himself into a motorcycle wreck, Paul, and has insane hospital bills that the family can't afford. Well, as any responsible father would, he enters the King of Iron Fist Tournament 5 to get the money to pay the bills. and he doesn't win. On top of that, Paul has the audacity to bring Marshall his motorcycle repair bill. What comes next, in my opinion, is very well deserved.
Here.
Round one, fight.
I think I've played this clip a million times on this channel, and I will continue to do so. At this point, Marshall's life is spiraling downward. His endings are funny, sure, but the character is finding himself in worse and worse situations, and it's not going to get any better. By Tekken 6, Law is completely broke and desperate at this point. With the announcement of the King of Iron Fist Tournament 6, Law and Paul decide to team up with Steve Fox, and they try to win the tournament together and split the money. And I guess the Zaibatsu, not really sure. Doesn't matter, the tournament never takes place. The plan fails, go figure, and it's at this point that Tekken fans, I think, begin to realize the basis for this character. What funny situation can we put Law in to make his life exponentially worse? Now, Tekken 7 is notorious for having pretty short stories. If you're not in the Mishima family or closely associated with them, you kinda don't matter in Tekken 7. But nonetheless, it's not like anything's getting any better for Law. He still needs money, and he enters the 7th tournament. That also never happens, by the way. But he needs someone to actually run his dojo while he competes. At what point did Law get his dojo back up and running? I have no idea, but he did. Obviously, he doesn't want to ask Paul, why would you at this point? So who does he choose to ask? Fang, for some reason. Nothing comes out of this, however, and it just makes Paul and Law look like a bunch of cowards. Though I kinda get them, because what in the Ultra Ego transformation is Fang doing here? And Heihachi turns Super Saiyan. Like, this game is weird, to be quite honest. Well, Tekken's weird, what am I saying? Now we get the grand finale. Once again, Paul and Law try to win the 8th tournament together. At this point, I gotta ask this question. Why is he even still working with Paul? Nothing good has ever come out of this partnership. Anyways, Paul beats Law, but he promises to split the prize money that he earns with him. Paul doesn't, and I don't believe he won any prize money. He didn't win the tournament. I don't even think it concludes. But this is all irrelevant, as Law not receiving any money from Paul, and bear with me here, it causes Law to join G Corporation in Kazuya's plot to destroy all of humanity. I can't with this game. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, there is the ending of Law in Tekken 8. Again, Law's ending. No one else's. This is what happened in this man's own ending when you beat the game with him, or at least the story portion. So Law has won the tournament, again, not canon, and he wins the Mishima Zaibatsu because for whatever reason, the Mishimas love to put that corporation at stake in a martial arts tournament. Could you imagine if Google was always put up every year in like a card game? Anyways, Paul is now his servant, and Paul presents Law with the bill from the United Nations, and it's the amount in damages that Jin and Kazuya's wars have caused on the entire planet. I have never seen so many zeros in my life. In shock, Law face plants the table and his soul goes to heaven. So he's dead now. Law is in so much debt at this point it's killed him. What the hell are we even doing here? Like, let's take an honest look at the trajectory of his life. The man wanted to just simply own a dojo. He does. His dojo gets destroyed for seemingly no reason. He gets the dojo back. He also decides to open up some Chinese food restaurants, loses them both. His son almost loses his life in a motorcycle crash thanks to his best friend, who is a complete idiot, and he just spends the next few years spiraling further and further into debt until he's so far in debt he loses his life. What is this character? I love that Law, at its core, is a Bruce Lee clone, and his story is even inspired by Bruce Lee as a martial artist. He just happens to own restaurants. but somewhere along the line, him turning into an international scammer who is in immense debt is crazy. Being honest, I don't even want Marshall to come back in Tekken 9. The guy needs to catch a break somehow. But my initial thought was to replace him in Tekken 9 with Forrest. I don't even think that's a good idea. Forrest himself has gotten himself into a lot of trouble or has been hospitalized fooling with Paul. The bad luck of the Law family is absolutely insane, but I want to know your thoughts. How do you feel about Law as a character, or both Laws, I guess, as characters? And what do you think could possibly happen to this family next? Anyways, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and you all have a good one, and I'm out.